Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run on the Paint recap. We've got 3 game twos to look at from last night, all 3 impressive victories. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First up, we had game 2 between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Indiana Pacers, and Damian Lillard for the Bucks made his return. We weren't sure if he was going to return in game 2 following the great news that he had recovered from the blood clot in just 3 weeks. He was out for game 1 in order to get back into conditioning. And in game 2, he was questionable to start the day. And then eventually he was made available to play. And it did make a difference, but not enough for the Milwaukee Bucks to get a victory as the Pacers won this game 123-115 to take a 2-0 lead in this best of 7 series. A game that, at least to start things off, didn't really have that much of a different feel than in game 1. The Pacers played amazingly on the offensive end, really the entire game, but specifically to start out, they had a 15-point lead in a blink of an eye to start the game, which was nearly identical to the way that game 1 had started. And it was everyone that had it going. Pascal Siakam had it going from the mid-range. Andrew Nembhard was great throughout the entire game. Aaron Nesmith from three-point range. And Tyrese Halliburton came out looking to score to start this game after only having 10 points in game 1 on like 23% shooting. Came out aggressive looking to score here in game 2, and he did that. He finished with 21 points, 12 assists, and 5 rebounds, 19 shot attempts. I always love it when he leads the Pacers in shot attempts because it shows that he is looking to score, and he's going to get his guys involved as well, his teammates, who, of course, all played well. On the Milwaukee Bucks side of things, again, to start, it really looked like it was going to be a carbon copy of game 1 because Giannis Antetokounmpo for the second straight game was absolutely fantastic. And in fact, after, game 1, which he played very well in, obviously, the main gripe with him was that he only had 1 assist when, with Damian Lillard out for the last, like 14, 15 games of the regular season, Giannis Antetokounmpo was basically the point forward for the Milwaukee Bucks, and him only having 1 assist in game 1 basically played right to the Pacers' hand because no one else in the starting lineup got going for Milwaukee, and it was just a few guys off the bench that had decent games when the Bucks were trying to make a late comeback in the fourth quarter. In this game, Giannis did a great job of getting some other guys involved. It obviously helps when you have an all-star point guard back in your lineup. Damian Lillard in this entire game only had 14 points. He did have 7 assists. He was 4 of 13, shooting 2 of 8 from downtown. But even then, this is his first game in 15 straight games. I expected some rust, and I think that he'll be better as the series obviously goes along here. I thought he had a fine game and hit some big shots when it did matter the most. I'd be shocked. I'm assuming that this is going to be the worst game that he has in this series, only shooting up 13 shots. But Giannis Antetokounmpo had 7 assists. He had 18 rebounds. Once again, the Indiana Pacers had no answer for him down low. He was finishing with the jump hook. He was getting to the free throw line at a decent amount as well. It looked like he was going to have a pretty good free throw shooting game. He knocked down his first 4, but finished just 2 for 6 at the line. And something I'm curious about in this game, it was Giannis Antetokounmpo's shots throughout this entire game. In game 1, it felt like he got off to a great start attacking, kind of the same thing he did for all of game 2. But where the Pacers really got that separation in the second and third quarters as the game went along was Giannis started to settle for more jump shots and mid-rangers. He took a rare 3. And obviously that's playing right again into the Pacers' hand. You're going to want Giannis to take jump shots. They're going to be living with that all day long. In this game, Giannis Antetokounmpo, out of his 20 shot attempts, only 1 of them came from outside the paint, and he obviously missed it. So he was 14 for 19 in the paint, 12 for 16 in the restricted area, which is exactly what you want for Giannis. The fact that any player is able to get up 16 shots right at the rim in the restricted area is incredible. I mean, obviously, you're right near at the basket, and it is a layup. But honestly, in my opinion, that's one of the hardest shots to get in basketball, and to make it a high clip is the layup contested when obviously that's a shot that, especially if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's the shot that you are looking for, and that the whole defensive game plan for the Pacers is kind of geared towards stopping. So Giannis once again had a very good game, and man, oh man, Bobby Portis Oh my goodness. He was fantastic in this game. This is the best game he's played in a while. It's obviously been an up and down season for him. He missed those 25 games post All-Star break due to the suspension. But in this game, had 28 points and 12 rebounds, made 6 threes, had 28 points, and he didn't make a free throw. I mean, that's unheard of in today's NBA, especially for a big guy. He was absolutely fantastic, and he was that second scorer that the Milwaukee Bucks so desperately needed in game number 1 on Saturday. I mean, I talked about it just about the Bucks-Pacers series in the full-on podcast that we released earlier yesterday. How, Giannis, again, he had the 36 points, but you got literally nothing from Kyle Kuzma. He gave you no stat in game 1. Brook Lopez had 9 points. He was, okay. Taurean Prince didn't score, and Bobby Portis only had 4 points. If the Bucks were going to have a chance in this series, with or without Damian Lillard, they needed some of their role players to step up, and in this game, some of them did. Again, Bobby Portis with the 28 points and 12 rebounds. It really stinks for the Milwaukee Bucks that they ended up losing this game with Portis playing so well, but Kyle Kuzma gave the Bucks 12 points, 3 rebounds, 5 of 10 from the field. Still can't seem to hit a 3, but all of his baskets, it seemed to be just him attacking the basket, mostly on fast break opportunities. He was attacking the rim and finishing shots. It looked like they were wild drives, but he was able to finish. But second straight game, you really don't get a whole lot from Taurean Prince in the starting lineup. Kevin Porter Jr. really did not have – he seemed a little bit, out of control in that game. They didn't go to A.J. Green that much on the offensive end, and even Gary Trent Jr. wasn't that great offensively. Very good defensively, which allowed the Bucks to get back in this game. Because, again, for a good 3.5 quarters, Indiana had kind of dominated this game. I mean, they gained that, 10 to 15-point cushion in the first quarter, and Milwaukee kind of played the Pacers even – the whole rest of the way through. It seemed like Milwaukee, they kept making a push. Like, they weren't playing bad. They went every single time they would go on like a 7-9-0 run, they would have a defensive lapse, leave Pascal Siakam wide open from mid-ranger for 3, leave Turner for 3. Andrew Nembhard hits a step-back mid-range shot. He hits a 3. Halliburton gets a floater. They just force a turnover and get a fast break opportunity. It seemed like every time the Bucks were making a push, Indiana had a response. And that was really impressive, that no matter what the Bucks did, the Pacers were able to just answer, with a huge run of their own. And I've just got to give them so much credit for how they've come out in these first 2 games. 6 players score in double figures. Benedict Mathurin had 14 points off the bench. All the starters had at least 15 points. Siakam and Halliburton with 24 and 21 to lead the way. But I've just been so impressed with what the Indiana Pacers have done in these first 2 games, because this is a series that going in thought could kind of go either way when looking at, what a lot of people were thinking prediction-wise, especially with the news that Lillard was going to play. Thinking, this could be a 6-7 game series, and I definitely think it still could be. But with how impressive the Pacers have looked through these first 2 games, really dominating their way to a game 1 win, of course, without Lillard, and just finding a way to take care of business in game 2, even after, Lillard and Portis hit a couple back-to-back shots. They cut the lead down to 2. Again, the Pacers just responded with back-to-back plays. They just have so many weapons on this team. And now looking ahead to game 3 in Milwaukee, which is, of course, going to be a must-win game for the Milwaukee Bucks, because no team in NBA history has come back from down 0-3 in a best-of-7 series in any playoff series. The number one priority to start game 3 should be get the role players going, make sure they have a rhythm to start the game, and when doing that, do not lose your defensive edge on the other end, because the reason that the Pacers have gotten off to such hot starts, I think a couple of reasons. One, the Pacers have been able to run and basically get whatever shot they want. I mean, they were shooting like 86% from the field 7 to 8 minutes into the game, but like they were shooting such a high percentage, but the Bucks didn't make anything difficult. Like with the shots that Indy was getting, they should have been shooting at that high percentage, because the Bucks defense was just not good enough. So Milwaukee's going to need to obviously apply some more defensive pressure. You wonder if that comes with a starting lineup change in game 3. We'll see if Doc Rivers does something because, that's the number 2 thing. I really think that Milwaukee needs to change their starting lineup going into game 3 because I do not think it is any coincidence that, you know what, I'm gonna find the numbers. I'm gonna find the numbers right now. I'm gonna do this live. I'm not gonna edit any of this out. Try to find the plus minuses to start each half with the starting lineups out there. So in this game, in game 2, the first 6 minutes before the Milwaukee Bucks make a substitution, they put Portis in for Lopez. 6 minutes into the game, they're down 21-12. So that's -9. Let me write that down. I'm going to keep track of this right here. So they're -9 to begin the first half. To begin the second half, they are down by 8 points. They're down 68-60. Coming out of the second half, before they make their first substitution of the half here, again at a similar point with 6:26 to go, Milwaukee is down 84-71. So they go from -8 to -14, right? Making sure that my Ashland University math is correct, or -5. So they are -14 in this game with their starting lineup on the floor to begin the games. I want to go back to game 1 real quick, and I won't spend again too much time on this game after this because we still have a couple more games to get to. But in game 1, of course, obviously there's no Damian Lillard, but by the time they make their first substitution in game 1, they're down by 3. They actually came out pretty solid to start in game 1, but they were down by 3 to start the game. And then in half number 2, they're down by 23 points. They're down 23 to start the third quarter, and by the time they make a sub, they're down by 26 points. So these are, in game 1, it was small in the margins. The bench for Indiana really played well in game 1, and so did the Bucks, but that was more so in the second half of games. Basically, bottom line is to start each half in the first 6 minutes of the first and third quarters in games 1 and 2, the Milwaukee Bucks have gotten outscored by 20 points. That should be the end all be all right there. You are playing from behind to start each game. You're basically, in these numbers, you're giving yourself a 10-point handicap to the Pacers to start the game because of the starting lineup you're playing out there. And this is how it's been for a lot of the season. I think the number one game that we always look back to is the crazy comeback that the Bucks had against Minnesota in the final week of the season in the 24-point fourth quarter comeback victory. It was Giannis and it was their role players that were playing off the bench that brought them back into the game. Giannis plays very well with that second unit. And in game 1, it was very similar. The starters, besides Giannis, the starting lineup had 14 points. In this game, plus minus was, and I know the plus minus isn't the end all be all, but your 5 best plus minuses were from your bench. Your 5 worst were your starters. And obviously, Damian Lillard, Giannis are obviously the ones in the starting lineup. But outside of Lillard and Giannis, I think everything should be open for Doc Rivers to make a lineup change. Personally, I think that he's going to go with putting in Gary Trent Jr. instead of Taurean Prince at that 2-guard spot. And then, obviously, you're going home to Milwaukee where they had been playing very well, as of late. And you can always say role players play better at home. But this has been a team where it has been very clear that, honestly, the second unit has been better than the starting unit for a long stretch of time now. So we'll see if Doc Rivers makes a change. I say he better because his season is on the line, and Giannis Antetokounmpo's Bucks career could be on the line as well. In these first 2 games, Giannis has put up 34, 18, and 7 in game 2, and he put up the 36 and 12 or whatever it was in game 1. He's probably the leading scorer in the playoffs through 2 games. He's been maybe the best player. Hasn't mattered because they've lost both games. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, last thing I'll say before we move on, Giannis Antetokounmpo, with the 2 losses this year, obviously not playing last year and getting injured in the Miami series in 2023, has not won a playoff game since Game 5 against the Celtics in 2022. It has been nearly 3 full years since Giannis Antetokounmpo has won a playoff game. So I am looking for him in game 3 to be even better than he was in these first 2 games of this series. And maybe it's not even in the scoring department because he did great in game 2. He's been great rebounding. But maybe we finally see him have a triple-double where Taurean Prince, Gary Trent, Kyle Kuzma, Brooke Lopez, AJ Green get going. Because, again, it's not like the Milwaukee Bucks don't have a deep team. They have very strong role players. That's a big reason why their second unit has been so good. The Pacers are just playing at another level right now. And that's how they've been the whole series, or excuse me, the whole season. That's why they have a 50-win season. If they're the Milwaukee Bucks, you know Giannis has been playing great. You expect Dame to play better now that he goes back home with another game under his belt. If you're the role players, you need to step up your game and step up to another level to give your best players and your overall team a chance to compete in this series, because game 3 on Friday night is going to be the Bucks season. It's going to be the Bucks season. So definitely looking forward to see how that happens. But either way, extremely impressed with the Indiana Pacers, how they played in these first 2 games. As a Cleveland Cavaliers fan who, the Cavs are going to have to play the winner of this series, little worried, a little scared of the Indiana Pacers with how they played in these first 2 games because they've been playing great. Moving on, won't spend as much time with this second game. Oklahoma City defeated Memphis in game 2, 118-99. Not as bad as the 51-point defeat in game 1, but still the Thunder a convincing victory. They came out strong once again. Once again, man, their defense, dude. I mean, it's obviously, I know I'm like Mr. Captain Obvious around here, but dude, Oklahoma City's defense really was the difference specifically to start the game and to close the game, because to the credit the Memphis Grizzlies here, after they got down by double digits in the first quarter and only had like 15 points or something like that. What was the score after the first quarter? 32-17. Yeah. They were down by 15 after the first quarter. They only had 17 points. They scored up 35 points in quarter number 2 and outscored the Thunder by 7 in the third quarter, 27-20. They just couldn't play a whole, 4 quarters of basketball. They really could only play up to that standard that the Grizzlies had played in, for a large part of the season for the second and third quarters. And the first and fourth quarters, they only got up 37 points while the Thunder scored 60. They got killed in the first and fourth quarters. And that was the difference. The Thunder defense really made things tough for the Grizzlies, which is saying something because the second highest scoring team in the NBA has not cracked 100 in the first 2 games of this series. And this is a series that the Thunder should look to sweep in. I have them sweeping, and they've been very, very impressive in these first 2 games, winning by a combined 70 points in the first 2 games. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 27 points, but he only shot 10 of 29 from the field. I think it really shows how amazing this Thunder team is, that they're up 2-0 convincingly, and Shai has not been that great. We're going to see better performances from Shai as we go along, maybe even in this series as the series shifts over to Memphis. Shout out to J-Dub for his incredible game on both ends of the floor, and Chet Holmgren with his double-double, 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 blocks. And also Alex Caruso, man. When watching this game was occurring at the same time as the Bucks-Pacers. I was watching the Bucks-Pacers one very intently, but every time I shifted my eyes over to the Grizzlies-Thunder game, just for a brief few minutes or so, Caruso was making huge plays. This might have been his best game as a Thunder. 13 points off the bench. He was a plus 18 in just 22 minutes. And he obviously made a huge difference. That's the reason why they traded for him in the offseason. A lot of people are now saying because of Josh Giddey's breakout year in Chicago, oh, the Thunder lost the trade. No, they did not lose the trade, because Alex Caruso's fit on this Thunder team, it's just perfect, and it shows why this Thunder team is very capable of winning an NBA championship in a couple of months. And then the nightcap of the game that we were all waiting for, Minnesota and the Lakers. How were the Lakers going to respond after they got beaten so badly in game 1? Well, we had that answer pretty quickly. They came out with a physicality, an intensity, and a defensive mindset that was just not there for game 1, and they kept that intensity the entire game, holding the Minnesota Timberwolves to a season-worst 85 points and winning the game 94-85 to even up the series at 1 game apiece. Lakers just, again, like I said, Lakers just came out strong and just kept it up the whole game. I mean, Luka Doncic from the very start was aggressive. Didn't matter who Minnesota had on him, whether it was Jaden McDaniels, whether it was Rudy Gobert on a switch. Luka was cooking. He was cooking. He had 31 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. LeBron was good down the stretch. Austin Reeves was amazing, with whatever matchup he got on him as well. And look, Lakers just played better. They played their game plan a lot better. And it just took them a game to get ready for this playoff moment and the physicality. It's actually kind of funny. I'm kind of curious. As I was watching the start of this game, I was simultaneously listening to episode 4, I believe, of the Mind the Game podcast with LeBron James and Steve Nash. And coincidentally, they were talking about how it may take a couple games or a quarter or 1 game or 3 quarters or whatever for a player or a team to fully readjust to the playoffs, because playoff basketball is a different sport than the regular season. LeBron said it's kind of similar to, asking someone running a marathon for 6-8 months to prepare for that, to then suddenly have to prepare for a sprint, from playing NBA basketball to the Olympics. They're different sports. They're completely different experiences. And of course that coincidentally comes out a couple days after the Lakers get blown out in game 1. And of course, Lakers bounce back here in game 2. And a big credit, obviously, is the defense. Minnesota, I was never really a huge fan of their offense. They did finish as a top offense in the league this year, I think like 8th in offense. But a lot of what the Lakers forced the Wolves to do in this game were isolation possessions, one-on-one with Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, and not allowing the other Wolves role players to get going. Like we saw in game 1. We saw in game 1, Jaden McDaniels had a 23-point game or something like. Let me pull out the right numbers. I don't want to cheat those guys, their stats or anything like that. Jaden McDaniels had 25 points. Naz Reid had 23 points. DiVincenzo had not only 9 points, but I thought he had a big impact in game 1. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 7. Mike Conley had 9. In this game, outside of Randall and Edwards, everyone's water was shut off because of this Lakers defense. They were forcing Edwards to play in isolation, Julius Randle to play in isolation, and he had 6 assists. He's done a very good job this season for Minnesota of making plays for his teammates, but it just wasn't consistent enough. Jaden McDaniels, after going for 25 points, has 8 points and 5 fouls. Mike Conley doesn't score. Dante DiVincenzo, 4 points. He makes 1 basket. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 4 points, makes 1 basket. Naz Reid, only 9 points on 3 of 8 shooting. The Lakers did a fantastic job of forcing Minnesota to be uncomfortable offensively and to just not work together. Minnesota had 14 assists on their 30 made field goals. And actually in the 3rd and 4th quarters, when Minnesota was trying to make a run back at this, because the Lakers were putting the hammer on, they had a 20-point lead for most of the game there. When Minnesota was coming back, it was when they were moving the ball a little bit more. And it doesn't have to be crazy, 3-4 pass possessions. It can be something as simple as Anthony Edwards driving and maybe someone cuts to the basket and gets a layup. We kind of saw the exact opposite things with the Lakers, because you could say, well, Miles, the Lakers play a lot of one-on-one isolation as well. And that's true, because you have Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves. But the difference is that we saw in this game, we saw a ton of possessions in this game where Luka has someone in isolation and he goes to work. When he's going to work and getting to the mid-range area, the mid-post area, regardless of if he's going to take the shot or not, his teammates are making themselves available for a potential pass. I saw a bunch of possessions where Dorian Finney-Smith was cutting to the basket as Luka was driving to get an easy layup. Rui Hachimura would do the same thing. Gabe Vincent would run around and spot up for an open 3. Reeves and LeBron would spot up for 3. The role players just played a lot better in this game. Even though no one had a standout game statistically, they just did a great job of playing working around their star players. And I think Dorian Finney-Smith is the big one. He played 38 and a half huge minutes in this game. Once again, we see J.J. Redick not really go to Jackson Hayes that much. He had 5,009 minutes. He, struggled out there defensively. But, the Lakers just put pressure on Minnesota because, I don't blame the Minnesota defenders. If you're someone that's guarding a Rui Hachimura in the opposite corner when Luka Doncic is isolating, you might ball watch a little bit and watch Luka try to go to work, and you lose sight of Rui backdooring you, and you look for a moment, he's gone, and then boom, it's a layup off of Luka, assist. Great game for the Lakers. I mean, you just see the complete opposite, from game one here. Even though the Lakers didn't, let's see, they had 94 points in game two. They only had 95 points in game one when they got blown out. The difference is instead of allowing 117 points, they allowed 85, a 32-point differential between games 1 and 2 for Minnesota. And I give a lot of the credit to the Lakers defense, just really coming in and focusing a lot more. So I'm excited to see how Minnesota will respond going back home for games 3 and 4 here. At the end of the day, Minnesota did take game 1. They did their job. They stole home court advantage. And now the Lakers, if they want to come back in the series, they're going to need to get a game in Minnesota, potentially both here, to, have a chance, the rest of this series. Overall, it's been fun to see all the star power play here. I'm excited to see how Anthony Edwards specifically responds in this game, because you talk about getting your teammates better. He might be the biggest sign or symbolization of what we saw as far as the differences between games 1 and 2, because game 1, he didn't shoot the ball the best, but to me, had a very good game because he only had 22 points, but he had the 8 rebounds and he had the 9 assists, getting his guys better off penetration, very similar to what Luka did here in game 2. In this game, Anthony Edwards, 0 assists. No assists for Anthony Edwards. And that's just not going to cut it. I mean, Julius Randle's been a very good playmaker this year, but again, if he is having basically half of your assists, which he did, 6 of the 14 Minnesota assists, you're just not going to win. And this was the worst offensive performance of the year for Minnesota. Shoot 38% from the field, 20% from 3. You're just going to need to play better. You're just going to need to play better. So I'm excited to see how the Wolves will respond in game 3, but the Lakers should definitely be feeling good because they just came to play. I mean, in game 1, I said it on our podcast. I think, to me, Lakers just need to play better in game 2. They just need to come in more focused. They did in game 2, and they get a convincing win. So we'll see if that really is the key, or if Minnesota can step up their game and get focused as well. But those will look at all 3 of the game 2s from last night. A bunch of great storylines there. Pacers going up 2-0. Oklahoma City going up 2-0, and the Lakers evening up their series against Minnesota. 3 more game 2s here tonight. First up, on TNT at 7 o'clock, we've got game 2 between the Orlando Magic and the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum is doubtful for game 2 with I believe a right wrist injury, tongue twister here. So he might not be playing here in game 2. So we'll see if Orlando's defense can slow them down and maybe steal a road win. We know how the Celtics were in game 2s in the playoffs last year, especially in the first and second round. They really didn't play their best. So we'll see if Orlando can steal game 2. At 7:30, switch your channel over to NBA TV for a little bit. For game 2 of the Miami-Cleveland series, the Cavs will look to take a 2-0 lead against Miami, the 1-8 matchup. And then the nightcap, game 2 between the Warriors and the Rockets, 9:30 p.m. on TNT. We'll see if the Rockets can respond after they themselves only put up 85 points in game 1 in a defensive-minded game. And if the veteran Warriors are going to just try to take everything out of the Rockets here in these first 2 games. Very excited for those matchups here tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA postseason content. Leave a comment down below on your thoughts on all the games going on so far. It's been a very compelling postseason so far here, just a few days in. It's been so much fun, and I can't wait for more. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.